And joining us for this week's Political Roundtable are Liam Farrell, reporter for the Annapolis Capital, and Robert Lang, reporter and anchor for WBAL Radio. Thanks to both of you for being here. Let's talk about what's happening on the investigation of state police investigations. The governor this week named former Attorney General Steve Sachs to lead a probe of what happened when the state police were infiltrating, investigating some activist groups. Does this indicate that the governor lacks confidence in the state police to investigate the state police?
I think there's a sense the governor wants to try to ensure the public that there's been a fair investigation of this. There are some misconceptions that, or he believes there are misconceptions, that the state police under Colonel Sheridan is going to do a biased review of this, and he wants to try to clear those up. So they appointed Steve Sachs. Now, since Terry Sheridan couldn't do it, they sort of figured, all right, next, why not the Attorney General? Why not the current Attorney General, Doug Gansler? Can't necessarily have that because folks in the Attorney General's office oversee the state police. Can't have the prior Attorney General, Joe Curran, who was his father-in-law and also was the Attorney General when all this took place. So they turned now to Steve Sachs.
What do we know? What do we not know? I mean, where could this be going?
Well, so far, what we know from the preliminary investigation that Colonel Sheridan did was that it took place over a 14-month period. Colonel Sheridan said that there's no evidence so far of similar investigations taking place at all, either under Governor Ehrlich or Governor O'Malley, although the ACLU is kind of putting the call out and offering its services to find out if it did in fact take place at other times. You know, the idea being that if they're willing to spend these resources with groups that weren't doing anything criminal, you know, was it just these 3 or 4 or was it 5 or 6? You know, did it expand? That's the question.
In fact, individuals from Casa, Maryland, say they might join the ACLU lawsuit because there's a belief that the state police under the Ehrlich administration might have tried to do some spying on that group as part of anti-immigration efforts, and illegal immigration, anti-illegal immigration protests. Should note that one of the things that Steve Sachs is promising that will be investigated is who did the state police share the information with? Did the state police, in fact, share the information with the Baltimore City Police? And if you look at the documents, and they're available online on our site and also on the ACLU of Maryland site, that you could find, did they share it with the city police as part of intelligence gathering? And in one instance, city police officers acted as undercover agents at a anti-death penalty rally 2 days before the execution of Wesley Baker back in 2005.
So any political fallout is potentially limited in terms of this being good for the governor if there's a rematch with former Governor Ehrlich?
Well, I think there's also this question of a lot of Republicans are asking is what did Mayor O'Malley know about this? And what did Attorney General Curran know about this?
And Attorney General Gansler said that Curran didn't know anything about it. Governor O'Malley is somewhat unclear. He said initially yesterday that he didn't know anything about it, and then he said that he may have, of course, maybe something, a memo across his desk at some point among a voluminous amount of other paperwork. He denies that the Baltimore City Police acted in a covert operation similar to how the state police did.
But then there are the documents to refute that.
I think it's a semantic, but they're kind of playing semantics at the moment. What did covert mean? Were they just there as plain clothes to, to just monitor it from a public safety standpoint, or were they there for the same reason?
And the city police spokesman Sterling Clifford has said over the last day or so that in the one instance where city police officers were there in undercover capacity, they were backing up the state police. You should also know why was the state police monitoring death penalty cases. It was really the pending execution of Vernon Evans, which was supposed to take place in 2006. It was ultimately stayed. There was a sense that after the execution of Stephen Oken in 2004, where there was violence, there wasn't violence, but there was arguments, very heated arguments between relatives of the victim and death penalty opponents, that there might be a repeat of that. There might be some sort of signal sent to the prisoners, the inmates inside the prison, that they may start some sort of rioting. So that's why they monitored, is believed why they monitored anti-death penalty groups.
And the governor and Augus have both been careful in their statements to say that we're not getting out of the business of investigating, and where there is evidence or suspicion of a crime, we're going to investigate. And when we find out there's nothing there, we're going to stop.
They keep couching it in terms of there's an error in judgment and not an error in tactic necessarily, and that these are things that they will be willing to do if there is the evidence to support it as being a serious public safety thing. But they both think it went on too long.
Also, you need to know Steve Sachs' investigation isn't going to take all that long. He's been given 30 to 60 days to complete it. Sachs told me yesterday he thinks he can get it done by October, which is within the 30 to 60-day time frame.
Governor O'Malley was in our studios on Monday taking phone calls on our Direct Connection program. We talked a little about the upcoming slots referendum and Republican charges that the governor is using scare tactics in advocating for that referendum. Here's what he had to say.
It's not a scare tactic, it's reality. Math is math. 2 plus 2 is 4, whether you're in state government or local government. On a national level, they can simply print more money or borrow, so they're not restricted by that balanced budget requirement. But we have a balanced budget, and the truth of the matter is, if slots does not pass, we will be back in that same unenviable ditch of looking at very unpopular choices, a combination of new taxes or more cuts.
What the economy does, we may be back in that ditch either way. And I guess the referendum is both a discussion of the pros and cons of slots, but also this discussion of whether we need the money that much.
And there really is no plan B if the slots amendment fails. I mean, the state had
Nor is it in the interest of proponents of the referendum for anyone to think there is a plan B.
That's right. That's right. And they don't know how the money will be made up if the slots referendum fails.
Well, they're putting the onus really on the opponents to find the alternatives. The governor's statements reflect the central tactic that the pro-slots groups are taking, which is, what else do you do? If this doesn't happen, what taxes are you willing to raise? What programs are you willing to cut? To trot out the number that 80% of the state budget is made up of things like health, public safety, education. So they're trying to back the opponents in the corner by saying, you only have these 2 options, taxes or cuts, and which ones are you willing to take?
There was another flare-up on the slots debate this week with the new Secretary of State who has the job of writing the ballot language, the little synopsis of a very long bill, constitutional amendment, and the slots opponents saying that because John McDonough was a former lobbyist for the racing industry, he should recuse himself. Probably not going to do that.
Represented Rosebrook Raceway for 21 years, and Mr. McDonough said he will not recuse himself. And one slots opponent told me today this is like the fox guarding the hen house. They do not feel he will do a fair job in doing that. One of the things Aaron Meissner of Slots Maryland has told me today is that this is not uncommon in other states where you have former gambling executives or gambling lobbyists who are now regulators. I think that's wrong. Now, whether that might lead to the opponents filing a lawsuit to try to block the referendum from going through, they don't know that they have the legal grounds to stand up.
But I'm sure the language will get challenged in court. I mean, if it's...
sure.
It'll be scrutinized very heavily.
Yeah.
McDonough was an interesting choice, and he's a political insider, and he has a lot of ties to Senator Miller, including his daughter working for Senator Miller. So, it just, from a PR standpoint for a slots opponent, like the fox in the hen house, that's what they see with this.
Interestingly enough, you mentioned the governor's comment earlier. It is a similar theme that the governor and his other supporters, and for that matter, President Miller and Speaker Bush were echoing last summer leading up to the special session, that if we don't raise taxes, here's what's going to happen. Republicans say that's scare tactics. Democrats say it's the reality.
We're going to leave it there. Robert, Liam, thanks for being here. We appreciate it. Now, the turbulence of Maryland's civil rights struggle has been documented in a new book by veteran journalist C. Fraser Smith. Charles Robinson has our report.